Hi, I'm Antonio Sela, and in this video we are going to continue our study of the 2D rotations as a preliminary material to better understand the 3D rotations, which are more difficult to grasp. I mean, 2D rotations is just waving your hand, but analyzing the trigonometric formulas in there and some properties will be key to understanding the jump to 3D space or even 4D quaternions or whatever. In the first video, we discussed the idea that mapping how a camera or a vehicle pilot sees a landmark feature on his internal coordinate system, internal sensors in forward and left, let's say, directions. This red dot is the detected landmark. Well, if my car, my robot, has a compass and it detects that it is tilted theta degrees with respect to the east direction, then if the camera sees the red point rotated 5 degrees with respect to the forward directions, well, I add the angles and that's it. So that's the rotation transform, applying sum of angles trigonometric identities, and then as I have r cosinus, r sinus, r sinus, r cosinus, which are the x and y coordinates in body frame, we can write the above sum of angle identity in this way, which is a linear function of the body coordinates, giving me the world coordinates. Of course, it's non-linear in the angle theta, but for a fixed theta, this rotation is a linear transformation on the input coordinates. So linear transformations can be expressed in matrix form like this. Columns are the rotations of the coordinate axis in body frame. This is the forward axis. This is the left axis. And multiplying the matrix by these vectors gives me the world coordinates of these unit distance elements in the forward or the left direction, these two numbers and these two numbers, each of the columns. And this is the rotation matrix in 2D, which can be used as a building block in 3D. This is a 1 degree of freedom transformation, which is a group because we can multiply rotation matrices and get another rotation. Rotating 2 degrees and rotating 6 degrees is rotating 8 degrees. So, well, group theorists in mathematics call it SO2, special orthogonal, and, well, let us indeed delve into some of the properties of these rotations, because some of those properties will extend to higher dimensions. So we will be able to ease the study of higher dimensional rotations instead of trying to think how to do trigonometry in 4 dimensions, which is kind of strange. The idea is that the properties we are going to describe will carry out some of them to higher dimensions, allowing us to study rotations without trigonometric formulas. So, the first important property is orthogonality. R transpose R is the identity matrix. This is R transpose, this is R, and if you do the matrix multiplication, cosinus, cosines plus sinus, sine, like this, and of course cosinus squared plus sinus squared is 1, and then the 1, 2 element is cosinus times minus sinus plus sinus, cosinus, which gives 0, and so if you do the 4 operations, you get that indeed R transpose R is the identity matrix. What does it mean? Well, it means that the inverse is the transpose, and also that this column is orthogonal to this column, because indeed the scalar product cosinus minus sinus C minus S plus SC is 0. It's what we're having there. So the columns are orthogonal, and the norm, cosinus squared plus sinus squared, are 1. So this indicates that the columns of a rotation matrix form an orthogonal basis, which somehow the left forward are an orthogonal matrix here, and if I rotate them, they keep being an orthogonal basis. This is abstracted as R transpose R equal identity. Good, so this is the first property. Orthogonal basis and rotation matrices are sort of two ways of saying the same in 2D, and it will also be that in 3D. Second property, this rotation matrix has determinant cosinus cosinus minus minus sinus sinus, so plus sinus squared. The determinant is 1. The determinant of a transformation indicates how areas transform under R. If the determinant is 1, it means that areas multiply by 1, and also orientation is preserved, in the sense that the reflection, so that I transform this into this, also does not change area, but somehow it changes orientation, it changes shape, in the sense that the transformation from my right hand into my left hand is not a rotation. I rotate my hand and they are, I need a reflection to transform my right hand onto a left hand. Then rotations are not that. They have plus 1 determinant. So that's the second property. The third property is that, well, if we compute the eigenvalues of this matrix, they are complex numbers. Of course, the entries are real, so eigenvalues are two complex conjugate numbers, and its product must be the determinant 1. So you can check that these are the eigenvalues, which are complex numbers with modulus 1 and argument plus minus theta. So somehow rotation in the real plane, Euclidean geometry of angle theta, is kind of a perspective on the rotation of theta of the argument of some complex numbers. And in fact, eigenvectors are complex valued, because eigenvector is something that multiplied by the matrix, it is just scaled. I mean, A, V, lambda V is eigenvector and eigenvalue of A, but in a rotation, as everything changes direction, but lengths do not change, then there is no real number and no real vector apart from 0 that verify this. The fact that eigenvectors are complex valued and that eigenvalues are complex also motivated the study of 2D complex rotations, so that 2D real rotations are a particular case. This will give rise to spin and quaternions and things like that we will discuss in future videos if we have the time. Then another property of interest is commutativity. This is unique to 2D. I mean, if I first rotate 6 degrees and then I rotate 4, the result is the same as rotating 10 degrees just in one, or first 4 then 6. So rotating 6 then 4 is the same as rotating 4 then 6, and it is rotating 10. I mean, why is this happening? Well, because we built this matrix from the sum of angles formula. So I mean, if I first rotate something phi and then I rotate theta, well, we crafted everything based on the sum of angles, So somehow we may think of this property almost as a definition, because we started by saying we must sum the angles and then we ended with the rotation matrices. So the important thing is that this thing will not extend to 3D. I mean, first pitching up and then rolling left will not be the same as first rolling left and then pitching up. My hand ends up in a different direction. I mean, we are not studying 3D, so we'll discuss that in sequel videos, but this commutativity and angle sum does not extend to higher dimensions. And well, there is an important idea. Look, that multiplication of matrices translates to addition of angles. So this is kind of similar to what logarithms do. Multiplication of 10 to the third power times 10 squared, it's 10 to the fifth power. So kind of the exponents add. I multiply some complicated thing in which 3 and 2 appear, and the result is doing the complicated thing to 3 plus 2, to the sum of the exponents. Then I am doing the same. I am multiplying two complicated things in which the angles appear, and it is equivalent to doing that complicated thing to the sum of the angles. So somehow multiplication in matrix world corresponds to addition in angle world. So angles are a sort of logarithms of rotations. What do we mean to that? Well, we will clarify it when we define the so-called exponential map from angles to rotations. Some power, some exponentiation will allow me to express rotations as the exponential of some function of the angle, and then, well, that will be called exponential map. But here it is just the idea, realizing that multiplication in one world of matrices is a mirror of addition in another world, and then we studied that also when we studied logarithms. So good. Then these are the 4 properties we wish to discuss, but there are more things to discuss around this, as follows. First, orthogonality and determinant properties in here can be used to abstract trigonometry, and we will be able to define rotations from these 2 properties. Instead of looking at the details on the angles, the frames, addition, whatever, in higher dimensions we will define a rotation to be something that fulfills these 2 properties. Why? Well, because orthogonality can be interpreted as metric and angle preservation as follows. The modulus of the transformed vector x world, the squared modulus of this, well, x world is rotation of x body, and then the modulus of a vector v is v transposed v, so this is x world transposed, this is x world, and as r transposed r is the identity, then the length in world coordinates is the same as the length in body coordinates. Rotations do not change lengths, and in fact rotations do not change angles either, and angles are defined by the scalar product, and the scalar product of v1, v2 in world coordinates is the scalar product of rotated v1 in body, rotated v2 in body, and it is v1 transposed r v2, and as this is the identity, this is the same as in body coordinates. So rotations do not change angles, do not change lengths. So they are, rigid body transformations, of course. Also, as I discussed, determinant does not change orientation like reflections do. So if x rotating counterclockwise gives me y, when I rotate things, angle does not change, they still will be counterclockwise. So metric preservation and orientation preservation will be the definition of a rotation in an abstract sense, and that will apply into higher dimensions, so it is a much better definition than doing this detailed positioning of the robot, rotating some of angles stuff. So this is important, as it will allow us to generalize our definition to 8 dimensions without thinking in any trigonometric formula. But as I said, we need to drop any hope of commutativity in 3 or higher dimensions. We do not need to include this kind of property in our abstract definitions of higher dimensional rotations, because if we do, we will find contradictions. So commutativity disappears. And then this will be the basic definition of an abstract rotation in 8 dimensions without any trigonometry. With this idea, we end the video. In a further video, we will discuss this exponential map thing and how to recover the trigonometric formulas from this new definition of rotations to fully understand the 2D world. But for the moment being, we end here. In this video, we just discussed how from this sum of angle identities we could derive this rotation matrix, and that the rotation matrix had these properties that suggested first an abstract concept of defining rotations on just a thing that preserves metrics, angles, and orientations of things, and also suggested that there may be generalizations into the complex world spinors for which real rotations are a particular case, and that at least in 2D, angles act as a sort of logarithms of rotations. Multiplication in matrices mirrors into addition on angles, and then further delving into this logarithm stuff and into how to travel backwards the trip from trigonometry to these matrix properties, then doing it backwards from metric preservation to trigonometry. Well, those 2 ideas will be discussed in next video. For the moment being, we end here. Thanks for watching.